So in this lecture, we are going to study about prostaglandins. Okay. And what are the prostaglandins? How they synthesize in the body, how they get transported, what are their essential functions, um, what situation, under what situation they get released, and on what receptor they actually acted upon. So all these things we are going to learn in this class. So here in this slide, this slide depicts the function of aspirin. All of you must be aware about the aspirin, uh, which people take while during headache or other sort of pain. So it is just an example of analgesic. How it acts? Basically, it acts on the cyclooxygenase enzyme, which is the key enzyme for the synthesis of prostaglandin. So aspirin basically acts as a competitive inhibitor. It binds on the active site of the cyclooxygenase and make them inactivated. And since these cyclooxygenases basically they are responsible for the synthesis of prostaglandins, which play important role in pain response of the body. So indirectly, they inhibit the production of prostaglandins. Basically, cyclooxygenase enzymes, they are causes the production of prostaglandins, which belongs to the eicosanoids class, and mainly prostaglandin E and prostaglandin alpha, prostacyclin, and thromboxanes. They are just derivatives of prostaglandins. They are biologically active compounds, and they play different biological role inside the body. Many factors control the synthesis and secretion of different eicosanoids. Like in pregnancy, they are produced under the effect of oxytocin hormone. So hormonal regulation is also behind the synthesis and release of eicosanoids. Okay. And in the thermoregulatory center of the hypothalamus, they are secreted by the effects of pyrogens. Okay. So, corticotropin and the another hormone known as corticotropin releasing hormone. It stimulates the synthesis of eicosanoids while glucocorticoids inhibits their synthesis. So we should know about, or we should aware about the facts that various hormones have different effects over the different types of eicosanoids. So they play a different role. Like oxytocin, when it stimulates the production of eicosanoids or a specific type of prostaglandins, it involves in the muscle contraction. When pyrogens stimulates the a specific class of prostaglandin, it acts on the thermoregulatory mechanism or thermoregulatory balancing of the body. When corticotropin releasing hormones or stimulates the synthesis, basically it mimics the function of the respective hormone. So in our body, arachidonic acid, which is a 20 carbon polyunsaturated acid, and generally it is found incorporated inside the membrane phospholipids in the form of phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylethanolamine, phosphatidylinositol. This arachidonic, when it released from the phospholipids, okay, in response to specific signals, then it involves in the synthesis of prostaglandins. So we have seen in our earlier class how arachidonic acid is responsible for the synthesis of respective prostaglandins. So what are the stimuli which influence the release of these arachidonic acid or prostaglandins? These hormones includes epinephrine, thrombin, and basically bradykinin, which activates phospholipase A2. And phospholipase A2, what it does, it releases arachidonic acid specifically from the phospholipids, and this arachidonic acid involves in the synthesis of prostaglandins. So this is our arachidonate. The structure of arachidonates, we have seen it earlier in our previous classes. Arachidonate, basically, it is linked with the phosphatidylinositol. Okay, this is the structure of phosphatidylinositol esterified, which contains one polyunsaturated fatty acid, that is the arachidonate at carbon number 2. So this arachidonate, upon action of phospholipase A2, get released from this phosphatidylinositol, and now it is free. So now it is free for the further synthetic reaction. So you should all of you should be aware about the fact that arachidonate basically present in the form of phospholipid in the membrane, and it get released upon the action of phospholipase E2 from the membrane. And when it get released, it involves in the synthesis of various prostaglandins. So immediate dietary precursor of arachidonate is linoleic acid. Apart from membrane phospholipids, from where we can get arachidonate, we can get it from linoleic acid. So linoleic acid and alpha linolenic acid, they are essential fatty acids, so they must be taken in the diet. Otherwise, the body cannot synthesize the eicosanoids. So minor eicosanoids can also be derived from eicosapentaenoic acid, PXA3, which is also known as PXA3. All cells, with the exception of RBCs can produce eicosanoids. Okay, all eicosanoids are locally active compounds and mediate their action through receptor-mediated G protein-linked signaling pathways, leading to an increase in cyclic AMP levels. G protein-linked signaling pathways, they are basically carried out by the G protein coupled receptor, also known as GPCRs. When any compound bind on the GPCRs, which is specific for GPCR, basically downstream signaling cascades starts where the second messenger cyclic AMP get activated. So different hormones produces different effects. Okay, they are produced basically in a small amounts in almost all tissues rather than specialized glands. They act locally rather than after transport to target tissue. We all know that these prostaglandins, they are local hormones. Okay, and they are not present in stored form. They have extremely short life. They are metabolized rapidly to inactive products at their site of synthesis. Their biological effects are mediated by plasma and nuclear membrane receptors, which are different in different organ system. Like we have just see the example of GPCRs. Okay, so now coming to the next part, biosynthesis of eicosanoids. Two main pathways are involved in the biosynthesis of eicosanoids. The first includes the prostaglandins, prostacyclins, and thromboxanes, which are synthesized by cyclic pathway, and with the help of the enzyme cyclooxygenase. We have a little bit hint about the cyclooxygenase as we studied in our earlier lectures. And the second pathway involves the synthesis of leukotrienes, which is synthesized by linear pathway and involves the enzyme lipooxygenase. Both types of enzymes are iron metalloenzymes. So if you were asked to write an example of iron metalloenzyme, you can write the name of cyclooxygenases and lipooxygenases. So this is the basic pathway. I hope you all can see this slide. Here, LTC4, LTD4, and LTE4. These are just example of leukotrienes. Okay, so from where they synthesize, actually in at the start reaction, you can see this blue button, arachidonic acid. When arachidonic acid get converted into prostaglandin G2 type, the enzyme involved in this reaction is fatty acid cyclooxygenase. And this prostaglandin G2, which is main precursor of rest of the prostaglandins, actually upon activity of peroxidase is converted into prostaglandin uh, H2 form. Okay. And this PGH2, when it interacts with TXA2 synthase, here TXA represents thromboxane. Okay. So TXA2 synthase just convert this PGH2 into thromboxane. Okay. And if the enzyme PGI2 synthase act on this PGH2, it will be converted into prostacyclin. There is a little bit structural difference between these compounds. Another enzyme, prostaglandin endoperoxidase, E isomerase, convert this PGH2 prostaglandin into prostaglandin E2. So what is the structural difference between these compounds? You can see that this arachidonic acid is 20 carbon compound and it get first converted into PGGH2 where this cyclic oxygen moiety has been attached, okay, in the terminal ring. And this peroxidase, basically it involves in peroxidation reaction, it attaches this OH group. Okay, and in this, what is the basic difference between PGH2 and thromboxane? This external epoxide moiety, this OO group is known as epoxide moiety. This moiety get internalized inside the ring. You can see this O and O, they get internalized inside the ring. They inserted inside the ring. So that is why it is known as the thromboxane. So this is the difference between PGH2 and TXA2. Okay, but prostacyclin is totally different compound. Okay, here what happens? This ring come inside the center of the rest of the lipid moiety, and the oxygen bond is inserted inside the ring, and one terminal OH group is there. So this is the structure of prostacyclin. What is the difference between PGH2 and PGE2? Here, this O group, the rest of structure is same. You can see the difference here. But this two oxygen molecule, one forms the keto group with this terminal ring, and another form a hydroxyl group at the terminal ring. So this is the structure of PGE2. And you can see this arachidonic acid is basically also acts as a precursor for the synthesis of leukotrienes, and leukotrienes, they involves, as I stated earlier, that they involves a linear pathway rather than a cyclic pathway. So these lipooxygenase basically they just make a linear compound. Okay, so arachidonic acid, you can see this structure. Arachidonic acid structure I showed you earlier in our earlier class. It is 20 carbon with 4 unsaturated bond. Just lipooxygenases catalyzes the insertion of one OH group at this position, and in this way it is converted into leukotrienes. Okay, and these all LTC4, LTD4 and LTE4, they are just variant of this leukotrienes structure. So you can see this, and you can ask any question if you want. And this is the basic pathway and enzymes involved during the synthesis of prostaglandins and leukotrienes. So let us let us take the enzymes one by one. Like first enzyme, which is most important, is cyclooxygenase, also known as COX, which involves in the synthesis of our prostaglandins. Basically, this enzyme lead to the formation of cyclopentatonic cycle. They are also called as PGS synthase because they lead to the formation of prostaglandin H. There are two major different forms that is isozymes present two isoenzymes present in the body. The first is COX-1 and the other one is COX-2. So the following table, we can see the difference between COX-1 and COX-2 in this table. The COX-1 is continuously produced in gastric mucosa, kidney, platelets, and vascular endothelial. And the COX-2, it is in its inducible form. Actually, it is not normally present in the cell. Its inducible form, activated form, mainly present in macrophages and monocytes. So from this first line, you can see the difference. COX-1 is involved in the normal physiological function of the body, whereas the role of COX-2 is mainly in the inflammatory reaction. So, and another difference between these two enzymes is COX-1 is important for the formation of prostaglandins required for normal physiological functions. Okay, and COX-2 basically they are used for signaling pain, inflammation, and they produces prostaglandins in inflammatory responses. Okay, it is also important to note that COX-1 is basically involved in the tissues such as stomach, and they are actually did the function of mucus secretion and regulation of gastric acidity, and in the kidney they also involves in the water regulatory mechanism. COX-2 basically produced or its production basically stimulated by inflammatory cytokines IL-1 and growth factors, that is platelet activating factor. So I hope you all are now well aware about the differences between the COX-1 and COX-2. It is very important to understand this fact because many people just confused about their function. Like if we take aspirin, it will inhibit the activity of COX-2 because it is basically involved in the pain signaling and inflammation, not COX-1. Okay, so this is the biosynthesis of prostaglandin, which is much more in detail. Here you can see, like in earlier slide, the structure of arachidonic acid was not there, but this is the structure of arachidonic acid on which when COX-1 or 2 act, it will convert it into the PGG2 and its half-life is very short. You can see it is just 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, it get degraded. Okay. So what this COX-1 do? It will add, it will cyclize this ring and add 2 atoms of oxygen in this terminal ring and one one OOH group, peroxide group at this end. So that is why this is known as cyclooxygenase, because it cyclizes the arachidonic acid and make the ring and insert 4 oxygen atoms in a subsequent reaction. So 2 in the form of epoxide, this is terminal is known as epoxide, and another in the form of peroxide. Okay, so this enzyme exhibit basically 2 activity. One is epoxidation and another one is peroxidation. Okay, so this this PGG2 again interacted with the same enzyme COX-1 or 2 and get converted into PGH2. What is the difference between PGG2 and PGH2? There's the difference between this group. This peroxyl group get converted into hydroxyl group. That's it. So this is PGGH2, whose life span is also very short. It is just 2 minutes. Okay, from here, this PGGH2 is basic precursor for most of the prostaglandins in the body, and when PGI synthase work on this substrate, it converts PGGH2 into PGI2, which is just a variant of this, and its half-life is little bit larger. It's 5 minutes. and from non-enzymatic rearrangement, this PGI2 converted into PGF1 alpha. Okay, there's no need to learn these structures, just understand the basics. You can just plot the arrow diagram. You just know, you must know the difference between the enzymes and the variants of prostaglandins, and no need to learn so much structural biology. I know this is difficult. Okay, so another enzyme, PGF synthase, convert this PGH2 into PGF2 alpha, and there is a few more enzymes like PGE synthase, which converts PGH2 into PGE2, and PGD synthase, which convert PGH2 into PGD2, and there is another enzyme known as MDA, which convert this into 12-HHTRE, and TXA synthase, as we saw earlier in earlier slide, that it converts PGH2 into thromboxane A2, and which upon non-enzymatic rearrangement get converted into thromboxane B2. So this is overall synthesis of various types of prostaglandins and thromboxanes using the same precursor, arachidonate or arachidonic acid, by with the help of various enzymes. So most important thing in this slide is just to remember COX-1 and COX-2 and PGI synthase and this PGI synthase and thromboxane synthase. Okay, in the next slide, and in this slide, we can just see how this phospholipase A2 actually releases the arachidonic acid from the plasma membrane. What happens? First, bradykinin, a precursor, a molecule, get interacted with the G protein coupled receptor, GPCR, which get activated, and the G protein stimulates the subsequent signaling cascade, which activate the phospholipase A2, which degrade the phospholipid and releases arachidonic acid. This arachidonic acid basically involves in the synthesis of various prostaglandins with the help of cyclooxygenases, peroxidases, prostacyclin synthase, and thromboxane synthase. So if you people find this slide tough, you can also you can rely on this slide and you can learn from here. As it seems simple, and you can easily understand the mechanism behind the synthesis of prostaglandin. Okay, so what other thing we should remember? The other thing is many stimuli like epinephrine, thrombin, and bradykinin activate phospholipase A2, which hydrolyzes arachidonic acid from membrane phospholipids, while corticosteroids basically inhibit it. Okay, so people who are under corticosteroid drug influence, basically they are less sensitive to feel pain. Okay, so so remember this fact. What are the function of prostaglandins? Different prostaglandins have different functions depending on the tissue location. Prostaglandins increases cyclic AMP in many endocrine glands such as pituitary, thyroid, and parathyroid, leading to the increased hormone production by these glands. On the other hand, they decreases formation of cyclic AMP in some tissues, such as adipose tissues, leading to the decreased lipolysis, and the stomach leading to the decreased gastric acid secretion, and the pancreas, there in pancreas, they causes decreased in insulin secretion. Okay, so within less than 8 to 9 minutes, this meeting will be going to end, and I'm just going to ask you, if you have any query, you can